I'm Josh, and this is another All By Myself edition of Alter Ego Comics TV. Mark has journeyed into the land of Nod, where he must fight his arm against every man and every man's arm against him, or something. I don't know. I don't really ask where he goes anymore. But I'm back with this week's best comics, and oh God, is it a good week. Let's kick it off with my surprise of the week, Shirtless Bear Fighter #1. Created by, oh good lord, that's a lot of credits. Written by Jody Lehope and Sebastian Gerner, and art by Nil Vendrell. And this is exactly as ridiculous as you would think from the title. We get a lot of off-color jokes, and just ridiculous nude or shirtless guy, depending on the panel. He spends about half the book nude. Fighting bears, and we find out why the government would need to call in a shirtless bear fighter. We get flashbacks to his history with Mother Bear and Papa Bear and Brother Bear, and it was just ridiculously fun. A lot of comics are heavy and dark, and this is the opposite of that. So good job, Image, for putting out something that made me giggle. On the Marvel front, the 800-pound gorilla of this week is Peter Parker, the Spectactular Spider-Man #1, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Adam Kubert. And those are some pretty decent names to have on a comic book. Chip Zdarsky, of course, is best known as the penciler on Sex Criminals, and Adam Kubert is known as being the son of Joe Kubert and also just being an awesome drawer in his own right. And this is... every time a new Marvel property, a new Marvel cinematic book comes out, or a new Marvel cinematic movie comes out, we get a comic book kind of designed for people who've only seen the movie to jump in and follow it. You know, with Iron Man, we got the Invincible Iron Man run from Matt Fraction that was amazing. The Jason Aaron run on Doctor Strange is kind of a similar jumping on point. And now we've got Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, for Spider-Man Homecoming. And what I love is they actually own it in the book, practically in the pages, telling them that you should read it. And or actually, I guess it's in the backup matter, but it's great. Zdarsky's humor is a perfect fit for Peter Parker's kind of whimsical jokes, because one of Peter's things is not all of his jokes always land, which makes Zdarsky's stuff work really well. Kubert's art is amazing, very pretty, very cool looking. We get team-ups and interactions with a number of other Marvel heroes, most specifically Ant-Man and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, who is a longtime compatriot of the Web-Slinger. And it's just a solo Spider-Man book that is a lot of fun. You don't have to have read any of the other stuff going on in Spider-Man, and that's really the virtue of it. Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man is amazing. It's epic in scope. Mark and I rave about it all the time, but it is epic in scope. You should probably read 5 or 7 or 10 years worth of comics to really appreciate what's happening in the current Amazing Spider-Man. And that's not an investment every random person who saw the movie is going to want to make. So this is a great jumping on point if you have friends or if you just saw the movies and liked it. And if you just like Spider-Man and humor, this is an A+ choice for you this week. Over on the DC side of the aisle, we've got Batman 25. A lot of the DC books are issue 25 this week, which means they are extra-sized anniversary issues. Batman 25 sort of completely ignores the answer to the question that was asked in Batman 24 and jumps off and kicks us off into the War of Jokes and Riddles. This is kind of a flashback. We do get a little bit of a framing sequence with Bruce in the present narrating it. But majority of the content actually happens years ago, and it is a story of the Riddler and the Joker and the Batman and sort of a wicked three-way fight, murder fist, team up, who knows what we're going to get. But Tom King's Batman has been amazing, and it seems to grow in scope with every arc and as it layers in new stuff. So I'm totally on board. This first issue was great. We get some great Riddler moments, some great Joker moments. Sorry, I'm trying to find who the penciler on this issue is, and it eludes me. There we go. Mikel Janin, or possibly Janin. But yes, Batman War of Jokes and Riddles is awesome. If you've been liking Tom King's run, you'll like it. If you haven't been following Tom King's run, I think because this is kind of a flashback story, it's a really great jumping on point, and it's got two of Batman's most iconic and popular villains in it, so there's no reason not to look into Batman 25. On the image front, from a well-known creator, we've got Crosswind #1, written by Gail Simone, who you may remember as just an amazing writer of comics. Best known probably for her Birds of Prey run in the pre-52 universe. She also was on Batgirl in the New 52 universe. She's written a number of other really awesome books. Secret Six was great, and she's done some Suicide Squad stuff. So Simone is kind of a modern, I don't want to say Cinderella story, but Simone started writing about comic books on the internet. In the early days of the web, she had, it wasn't called a blog at the time, but now we would call it a blog, where she wrote critiques and posted little funny comments and scripts and stuff, and eventually it caught some people's eye, and she wound up writing, and she's been a comic writer ever since. Truly a fan favorite. But Crosswind is, the penciler on this is Ricky Skaggs, Boz Skaggs. No, it's Cat Staggs, who's tagged as co-creator. And Crosswind is Freaky Friday if instead of a mother and a daughter, the people swapping bodies were an assassin and a stay-at-home mom. And yeah, that's the pitch. So we've got most of the issue is seeing the lives of these people. This assassin who's being asked to murder a close friend who may or may not have gone dirty, and a woman whose life is not great. She's got stepkids who hate her. Her husband clearly has very little respect for her. There's all this pressure. She's being harassed by local youths. And I credit Simone with going for it because it was almost painful to read some of this, how kind of raw and rough her life is. And nothing horrible happens to her, but it's just the slow day-to-day creep of tiny annoyances and indignities piling upon her. So it's almost a relief when she gets switched into the body of an assassin. And then we go from there. Stag's artwork is very cool. Sort of a weird, almost photorealism in a lot of cases. Very good, very awesome. Presumably there will be lots of murder. We do get some murdery stuff in here. And this is not for kids, all sorts of fun language and nudity and sexual situations. But Crosswind, Gail Simone's brought something interesting to the table again, as is her way. Marvel side, Weapons of Mutant Destruction #1, written by Greg Pak with art by Aziz Assar. No, not Aziz. Someone Assar. Batman, I think, is actually the writer. So how are you guys doing? Art by Mahmoud Asrar. And this continues the story that has been developing both in the title Weapon X and in Totally Awesome Hulk. We've had a couple prelude issues in each, I believe. And both those books are written by Greg Pak, so it's great to have him doing a crossover where he has total creative control. Greg Pak, of course, is best known for a legendary run on the Hulk. Planet Hulk being the big standout in the arc, but all of his Hulk stuff was really great. And this is no exception. We continue to see Amadeus Cho, the totally awesome Hulk, because we have too many Hulks running around in the Marvel Universe now, teaming up with Old Man Logan and Sabretooth and Lady Deathstrike and Domino and Warpath. And they get together and go after these people who are making murder bots and trying to get them specifically to steal their superpowers and use their DNA to develop more efficient murder bots. And this is just a lot of fun. It's a great team up to have the kind of murdery, dark X-Force, because pretty much everyone on that team is morally ambiguous. And pair it with Amadeus Cho, who's the Hulk, so he's like the most, the strongest one there is. But he's also a kid, he's idealistic, although he's not especially naive, because he's pretty smart and he's been around a little bit. So it's a great juxtaposition to see these killers with this kid who has all this power and is brilliant and rich and whatnot. So Weapons of Mutant Destruction is all kinds of fun. Weapons of Mutant Destruction Alpha, although it still has a #1 on the cover for whatever reason. But check it out. If you want to jump into this, I would recommend probably picking up the previous Prelude issues first. This gives you everything you need to know to follow it, but if you're going to enjoy the series, the first 2 issues are the same tone, the same plot, and I think will probably improve your appreciation of it overall. Quick hit from Marvel, just a shout out. Secret Empire Underground #1. This is a one-off story about a group of heroes trying to get a cosmic cube fragment from the Savage Land. And so, of course, they must go against Sauron and dinosaurs and mutates. We got Mockingbird, Quicksilver, Hercules. I wish they would decide what Hercules' costume is. Sometimes he's got the weird cyber eye, sometimes he doesn't. And I think he might be wearing the Wrestling Championship belt also right now. Ant-Man, Scott Lang, and Don't Call Me Falcon, Sam Wilson. And the reason I'm telling you about this, other than it was just lots of fun, is it was written by Jeremy Whitley, who just knocks it out of the park on Unstoppable Wasp, and this is very similar tonally. Some of the dialogue he gives to Hercules is awesome. Hercules is a tough character to write. Not everybody can write that kind of pseudo-mythic dialogue and make it land, and Whitley does a great job of playing Hercules, both as a strong figure and as a humorous kind of man out of time who just wants to wrestle a dinosaur, man. I mean, sometimes you got to. He also gives Mockingbird some great moments, and Sauron is a very... He made me actually kind of hate Sauron, which is tough, because normally Sauron's kind of a joke villain. So good on you, Whitley. Secret Empire Underground, worth a read. Quick hits over on DC side. We've got Super Son 6 and Superman 25, both of these kind of wrapping up their respective arcs. The end of Black Dawn in Superboy. Both these books written by Peter Tomasi. Both of them awesome and beautiful and fun. And over in Super Sons, we see kind of the culmination of the first arc, and we see sort of a confrontation between the Super Sons, as well as a revelation of where their relationship is going forward. Back on the Marvel side of things, we got Mighty Thor 20. So some people read, a lot of people read Unworthy Thor, and by the end of that, Thor did not pick up the Ultimate Thor hammer, but we saw someone pick it up. In this issue, we find out who that is. It is a recognizable Asgardian character who I am on record as loving dearly, and this issue is no exception. Written by Jason Aaron, art by Russell Dauterman. Awesome and fun and epic and everything I wanted to read in a We Get One More Thor comic. So I'm not inherently opposed to the proliferation of superheroes with the same name and similar powers, but it has to have meaning. It has to say something that the other existing version of the superhero doesn't, and this absolutely does that. If you've been reading Aaron's Thor run, you won't want to miss this, because we get some pretty heavy stuff before we get the revelation of the new hero. Lots of people dead. And we get some touching moments between the Odinson and Jane Foster as they talk about their relationship and the way her life is going, or more aptly, where her life is going with the not continuing much longer because of the cancers. So very heavy, very good, great fun. I'm super excited to see where Aaron takes us next with these characters. All-Star Batman 11 is another quick hit from DC. This is Scott Snyder and Raphael Albuquerque, one of the best teams in comics. Albuquerque's art is evocative and amazing, and Snyder's writing is spot on this time. This continues kind of a flashback story. It's basically an Alfred origin story. We're getting a lot of flashbacks about Alfred as a young man. We also have a story in the present going on with Bruce and Batman, but the part that resonated for me was the Alfred stuff, and it's awesome. And last up, we don't spend a lot of time talking about ongoing series that have been going on for a while with the same creative team, but I do want to give a shout out to Aquaman this week. This is issue 25, another oversized issue, still written by Dan Abnett, but the reason we're talking about it is twofold. The first is the art is by Stepan Secek, who is freaking amazing. Probably best known for his work on Witchblade and the other Top Cow properties. Secek's art is just pretty as all get out, and I really loved some of his more creator-owned stuff. His teenage take on Witchblade called Switch, or his lesbian bondage book Sunstone, which is also amazing emotional stuff. But at the start of this, we get Arthur is allegedly dead. Mira is on Earth mourning him. Aqualand. Atlantis is taken over by dark forces, nuking. Stuff is getting scary. And what's going on? We follow Arthur. He's been kind of just living an anonymous life in the depths, but he sees injustice amongst his people, and he must speak out. He takes inspiration from the Batman kind of hiding his identity and striking fear into the heart of Atlanteans. And it's well written, it's great dialogue, iconic character moments, and beautiful art make Aquaman 25 a cannot miss book. And I am out of time. I've got to open a comic book store. And see you next week. Comments below. Facebook group. Comics are awesome. Bye.